Thank you so much for inviting me to speak today. I really appreciate it and hope you can learn something from this talk about how I evolved during my career as an arthroplasty surgeon, my journey to the summit. These are my disclosures, none of which are directly relevant to the presentation here. The real disclosure is that while this is saying that this is a journey to the summit, I'm not quite at the summit yet. There's still a lot that I want to do, as we all have different life goals. And as I always say, it's the journey that matters, not where you are at the time frame. My goals and interests have actually changed over time, and I'm still evolving at this time frame. Initially, my goal was to go into private practice. I wanted to do hip replacements, I wanted to do knee replacements. I wanted to do them well and call it a day. I wanted to get really good at them, and so I pursued an MBA. I did an MBA between my first and second year of medical school because I thought that financial acumen would be really helpful for running a private practice. As we all know now, you don't need an MBA to run a practice and do a good job with it. That said, as time went on during my residency, I discovered that I really enjoyed the different aspects of academic medicine. I actually enjoyed teaching medical students, residents, fellows. It was nice to be in that environment where you were discovering new things. You saw things through the eyes of individuals, which things were new to them. There's also the research aspect of things. Research was great because it was interesting to either find out what you did and support it, refute what you did in practice, or discover new things. So the idea with academic medicine is you can combine these two major goals with clinical care, and that's where my interest lied. So the first lesson I like to share is to find out what you're passionate about. You may not know right now what you're passionate about. You might have multiple different passions, but you want to really focus on one area if possible. Periprosthetic joint infection is an area that I'm passionate about. That happened by accident when I was a resident. When I was a first-year resident looking for a project to do, I received this paper. It was called The Pittsburgh Experience with Stage Revision Arthroplasty for Chronic Hip and Knee Prosthetic Infections, a retrospective comparison of outcomes between resistant and sensitive bacteria. Needless to say, this was not an ideal article to write or pursue. However, there was interesting data that came from the study. So we took this data, and this was my first research project as a resident, and looked into these chronically infected patients and found that malnutrition was associated with increased risk of infection. While now that's not considered a novel finding, it was my first foray into periprosthetic joint infection, and it made me very interested in a topic where I wanted to make a change in people's lives. Lesson number 2 is once you find your passion, learn as much about it as possible and practice as much as possible. What's the best way to practice it? Well, when it comes to research, unfortunately, the best way to practice how to get good at reading research or teaching research, as well as writing your own research, is to do reviews. The peer review process, as we all know, is very hard. It's not paid, and it takes a lot of time. And yet it really refines your own research techniques and how you can critically read your own research, as well as produce good research. This started again when I was a resident. KSSTA was a journal where one of my attendings was a reviewer for it. He actually became one of the editors for it, and he asked me if I would become a reviewer for it. Now, historically as a resident, most of the times you were doing reviews for attendings. But in this case, he asked me to be my own reviewer. He gave me a review. I ran it by him. He looked at it, approved it. I submitted it. I did one. Then I did two. And I did multiple ones, and now I'm up to 34 journals that I review for. Now, I don't review for each one of them on an everyday basis. That would just be too much, but I review 34. So I don't say no to a lot of them. If I do, I now try to put them in my area of expertise. But initially, say yes to all the reviews because you get good at reviewing topics in all different areas. The benefit of doing these reviews, it actually leads to other opportunities. In the publishing world, reviews are the best way to start off doing it. By doing a lot of consistently good reviews, you often get invited to editorial boards, which is really nice. It gives you potentially some say in editorial process. It opens your eyes to a brand new area when it comes to journal publishing and allows you to interact with other like-minded individuals who work really hard in the publishing world to put out good science. So these are the areas that I'm involved in when it comes to editorial boards, and I've really enjoyed working with these different individuals in different capacities. So the question that you ask yourself is, how do you conduct research? The hard part about it is that not everyone has a mega infrastructure of research, and it might be really hard to do. When I was a resident, I started just doing research on my own. I had an attending there who said, hey, I'm interested in looking at these things. There was no research infrastructure. So instead of going to a database, so some hospitals have really nice databases of patients that they had from decades ago. Here, we went to get billing data. You can bet that every hospital does a really good job of billing because that's how they make their money. So we got billing data based on CPT codes to get total joint replacement cases. Using these codes, or people can use ICD-9 or ICD-10 billing codes, or DRGs. These are in the United States, but obviously there's different parameters that can be used in different countries. And you can actually get this billing data, get the patient name, information, and manually extract data. And then you can build a database for subsequent studies. You get all this information, you do longitudinal follow-up, and then you can use that same database for multiple different areas of research, which is nice. As a fellow, I joined an organization that had a major research infrastructure. It was the complete opposite. We had tons of data. We had research assistants, we had statisticians, we had clinical trial coordinators. It was wonderful in terms of an infrastructure of research. I interfaced more with research assistants to complete projects, and because of that, we were able to perform more prospective, randomized controlled trials because it required more people to be involved. As an attending, you ask yourself, how can I conduct research? Perhaps you're in a hospital that doesn't really conduct any research at all. The first, most important thing as a surgeon, as I say, is to keep your own database. Create your own registry. Take all the patients you've operated on and create an entire list of patients. Collect all the information on your cases, and potentially, if you have other collaborators or other partners who are in your own hospital, you can expand it to them as well, and collect data on all of these patients together and study something unique about them. What's unique about your patient population? Perhaps you have a big dysplasia population. Perhaps you have a big population of tuberculosis. Perhaps you have a big population of whatever unique characteristics you have in your hospital, and you can uniquely study them in your hospital situation. You can also leverage any existing infrastructure. So perhaps your orthopedic department does not do research, but the internal medicine group does, or the neurology does, or general surgery does. You can use those infrastructure to help build your own infrastructure as well. Ideally, you can ask for financial support for research, both in the private or academic setting. Or you can obtain it by participating in studies, and I'll go into that in a little bit of depth. If you can get financial support, the nice thing is that you don't have to run all your own research. It is beneficial to have a research coordinator. It's beneficial to have statistical support. How do you get some funding? You can get funding by industry. There's investor-initiated studies where you put together a proposal, you run it by the company, and they potentially approve it. There's also multi-center studies, either ongoing grant-funded studies or industry-funded studies where you can participate in, and then your costs can be covered by the study itself. If you don't have your own data or your own databases, you can use national registries. Here in the United States, we have the American Joint Replacement Registry. There's national insurance databases. For us, we have Medicare. Many other countries have databases because all their patients are under one insurance company. And in the United States, there's databases that cost money for access. Here we have things like Pearl Diver. There's a private healthcare database. There's a bunch of different ones that you can utilize. And why should you do research? It allows you to elucidate findings in orthopedics that can change, support, or refute practice, which is important to look at. Presenting your data is very beneficial. And for myself, I got involved with doing research, and it gave me a seat at the table. It gave me a seat at my table at my own hospital, within my own hospital system, to do research and help promote my own hospital. It gave me a seat at the table at societies as well, too, as you're contributing research, and these societies do value research or podium presentations. And it also gives you a seat at the table with industry as well, which is also very beneficial and helps your climb through arthroplasty. Lesson 3. Channel your passion into society involvement. Join groups that share your own interest. I was interested in periprosthetic joint infection, so it made sense to join the Musculoskeletal Infection Society. You can also join societies that look at patient care, education, research, surgical procedures, and hospital leadership. When it comes to society involvement, don't be limited by your country alone. There's multiple different societies in multiple different countries that you can join them, and the key is to get involved. Don't just be a member. Really get involved into tasks that you are interested in. Get involved in committees that you want to serve on. If you're asked to perform tasks, once you do them, you want to do a great job with them. Either you're asked to perform them or you ask to perform them. If you do well with one task, you will get more, and this will help you rise in the leadership ranks of a society. I'm slated to be the president of American Association of Hip and Knee Surgeons in 2026, and I look forward to serving an organization that I'm really proud of. I was previously the Musculoskeletal Infection Society president, again, an organization that I really feel passionate about. Lesson 4. Take opportunities when they arise. Being at the right place at the right time is key. For example, I was a starting attending, and one of my colleagues could do a total knee replacement, skin to skin, in 24 minutes. Well, their first robotic total knee arthroplasty took a little bit longer than that. So as the junior partner, I helped out with the limited market release of the robotic surgery. It started off as a study, which is a great opportunity to learn a new technology. But it gave me a great opportunity to add additional passions. So not just looking at periprosthetic joint infection, but I add robotics to it as well too. It allowed me to conduct research, participate in speaking engagements, and work with industry in a meaningful way. Finally, lesson 5 is do not say no, at least initially. I know everyone tells you learn to say no, but the key factor is saying yes initially opens the door to more opportunities. At the beginning of my career, I said yes to absolutely everything. If you do say no to something, be clear to yourself as to why you're saying no. Is it because of interest? If you're not interested in it, if it's outside of your passion, if you don't have the time for it, and if it costs money or doesn't provide money when it takes your time. Lesson number 6 is to network as much as possible. You know how they say in real estate, it's location, location, location? Well, here, when it comes to ascending in the world of orthopedic, it's about connection, connection, connection. Connections will lead you to speaking panels. You'll see a lot of friends bring their own friends up on the speaking panels. Podium presentations, research studies. If you're doing a multi-center study, I'm going to reach out to people who I know are going to do a good job and people that I know. It also can lead to industry opportunities, society and community involvement, hospital and hospital system involvement, and career advancement. These are all beneficial things, all based on networking alone. So in conclusion, passion is number 1. Find what you like, and whatever you do, do it well. Develop it more and more, and get involved in societies that you're passionate about. It leads to more opportunities, whether it be your own hospital, within societies, or with industry. And again, don't say no, at least initially. Networking is key, and that's useful at any stage in your career. It can be helpful for getting another job. It can be helpful for working with industry. It can be helpful for research projects. It can be helpful to do the personal. These are all important things, and we want to build a community of individuals. So let's all be great together.